One of the most frustrating things with HubSpot is that while it can do a lot, it also screws up so many things in the weirdest ways. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to leverage Make.com as well as HubSpot to take a form that your teams might fill out to then automatically generate a deal, assign contacts and companies, and any other properties that you may need to add. This is especially important if you're using their Commerce Hub, where you need to be able to assign line items and data from your product library there and add it in there so that way the deal invoicing and generation process can be substantially faster. Now, let's walk through a quick example so that we got caught up here. So let's go to forms here inside of this marketing account. In this example, we've got a variety of information that gets filled out. It's essentially like their quoting form. And so as someone fills out this information, we are essentially getting all the information we need to put together a HubSpot deal and assign line items to that deal. Now, the current issue is that prior to using this automation, that would come in, that information would be sent to a sales member. That person would then copy all of that information, generate the deal, and then manually add in line items, assign a contact and a company. And that's just a bunch of wasted time. However, with this updated flow, we're doing the following instead, which is as soon as the form is submitted, we're then pulling all of the details, we're assigning the company and the contact, and adding in the line items cleanly. So the components that we need is the following. We need the form that we're using, whether this is a HubSpot form or an external form. We're going to need access to workflows so we can run a basic trigger like the following. So we'll create a workflow. We'll run a submission trigger off of that form, and then we're going to send that data to a webhook. Once that data is added into here, I'll show you how to create this webhook in a minute. We're going to send all of that data. That data then goes to our automation. Here's the webhook. Here's the deal. We're then going to run a piece of code, and inside of that, we're then creating an array so we can find the product, get the associated details of that product, add it as a line item, and ensure that it maintains association with that deal. Doing this entire process will allow you to have effectively created a closed loop process. So when a new form comes in, you can come in here and very cleanly add in schools and contacts and companies and the unique line items that need to be associated to that organization. As you'll see here on the side, I realized my big old head was in the way. So how are we going to go through and do this? Well, go through first, start by going to marketing, forms, create your form. You know, whatever form you want. I'm going to use this consultant order request form. Inside of the form, you're going to click the edit form button. You're then going to go over here to the left-hand side where it has the gear icon. Right above it, there's a little one that says automation. You're going to go through and create that basic workflow. So it's like on form submission, hit the plus sign, go to data ops, send a webhook. You're going to hit post because you want to send all of the information from the form to the webhook. Now, where are we getting that webhook from? We're going to get it from Make. We can save changes. Yeah. We're going to go here, and we want to do the following. We'll come in here, we'll hit plus sign, webhooks, custom webhook, create a webhook, example, save, and boom. Now we've got this address. Once we get that address, we're going to copy it. We're going to come into here, and we're going to paste it in. Make sure there's no authentication type, include all triggers in the contacts, and make sure that this has been saved and you turn the workflow on. What this does is now at least just streamlines the process. Every time that form does get submitted, the information cleanly moves forward. Okay, so now that that data is into here, I'm actually going to go back to the other one so we can go and view the current process. I'm going to put this back together for it. Save. Yes, process old data. Cleany. great. I've got all these old things from me playing around with this. Is what happens is we're gonna have this webhook. So this is where the data is gonna come into. We're then going to use HubSpot create deal module. In here, quite simply, go through, fill in all of the related details that you need to put in for your prospective deal. At the very bottom, you'll be able to see associations. And so if you want to automatically associate a company and a contact, come in to the bottom here, click HubSpot defined, and then go to the deal association type and do deal to company, pull in the company's ID that comes from that webhook, and you'll do the same thing for contact, deal to contact, pull in their ID. Here is the contact's unique ID. This works because this is the visitor's ID who filled out the form. Great. Now what's this? What this is a connector, and this connector actually is a JavaScript that has a built-in foundation of the products that are offered. And then a bunch of this script here helps to pull the data, normalize it, and cleanly structure it so it can take messy JSON from the webhook, have that data be passed in, and then it gets reformatted. And so what that ends up happening is that we have a clean array of the items. What do I mean by that? Well, inside of HubSpot, if you go to commerce and then you go to products, these are your items. These are the items that we are referencing. Well, some of them that we're referencing in relation to the form or the code block here. So if you want to go through and find out how to do this, come over here, select all of your products, and then export. You see this export view? Use this export view to then copy the code that you've got inside of my make module. Again, I'm gonna have a link to this down below. So if you want access to this entire scenario so you can just kickstart yourself with it, feel free to use it. So inside of here, I've already got the code written out. So you basically should be able to just swap out the products that you're using, which is everything up here. Okay, so you just swap out all of these products. And then all you need to do is go to something like Claude Code and be like, hey, Claude Code, here is my list of products from HubSpot. Please update the following code here with my structure following my product ID, my product's name, and the aliases associated to my product. And so using this, you should be able to get a pretty solid setup right out of the gate. And so what should then be able to happen at just this point, if you make it this far, as you've copied and pasted my make scenario, so should be pretty quick to jump to this point, is now when a person fills out that form, that submission data comes to here. It will then create a deal. And then when you run it, any of the drop-down available options that you've listed in your form will then be aligned to maybe a product that's within your hub. And then that's where properties is coming from. So this is just pulling all of the field data from that contact. As most people, when they're running a form or creating a form within HubSpot, they end up creating a unique field for each of the products that they're selling. And that's sort of the instance that they did with this. Anyways, what this does, we get this, we now take the result of our scenario here. As you see here, here's an example, right? It identified a bundle of items, which is like, here's one of the products, and then runs it through. So what is it doing now? Well, now we're going to run a get a product module. So that way we can pull that unique products ID, and then we're going to create a line item. HubSpot requires that you first get a product's information and then go through and create a line item so that you can then associate said line item to the deal. So that's the steps that we have to follow. And so in here, once we've gotten our product information, this is important so you always get the most up-to-date information rather than just leaving it to being reliant on what was in that code. Go through, input all the details you need to input. You're going to have slightly different information here. Most of this is just doing a clean match of the get product value into create a line item. Then you then take and create an association field. This is honestly quite simple. It's just the only option is line item to deal. Guess what? That's a line item. That's a deal. We're going to associate it. So now we take, here's the line item information right there. And then we just scroll back a little bit. And here is the deal ID. By doing so, this now makes it so the new line item that we create is now associated to the deal. So if we go through here and we go and look at an example deal, let's just grab this one. You will see each of these things are line items. Each line item has a unique set of options and they've been assigned to this unique deal. Each line item has to be unique because it typically will run and do invoicing or quoting based on that. And so if it's not unique, then you have a bunch of issues. So you're not gonna be able to just like go and pull another line item and just add it in, because if you have it being associated to too many deals, it actually gets really messy. So anyways, I added in an iterator and an array aggregator at the end of this, in part that I'm doing other pieces beyond it. However, this still works if you just want to be somewhat a little bit lazy here. So honestly, for most of you, you probably could get away with just this setup, which is form submission, data goes to webhook, create a deal based on said data, use a make code to then parse the items that exist, use that to then create a unique array. What this means is we want to pass one item at a time. We don't want to pass all of them. If you passed all of them, you actually have an instance where it breaks. So then we iterate by pulling one item at a time, creating a line item, and then associating it to the deal. From there, you could be done. The other pieces you could do is then go and like create a Slack notification, right, to your team, or do a Notion update. In this instance, we're just not doing that. However, this is honestly like the most important piece here because this is dramatically streamlined your process. So this is really important because say you have consultants that come and do a bunch of affiliate work, right? They're filling out a form, recommending certain people to you. Well, they can now take this form and automatically create a deal, maybe assign notify a sales rep, and assign the items that the person's already interested, streamlining your sales process. If you want to see how to do stuff like this and others, just let me know. I haven't made a video sort of like actually going through an example build for a little while, so just let me know. But other than that, hope this is helpful. Talk to you guys soon. See you another day. Bye.